Hi guys, it's Nina from VR Focus. I'm joined by...
Sam Watts, Director of Immersive Technologies at Make Real.
So tell me a little bit about the VR experiences, or MR, AR, whatever you're doing that you're looking to do for the future.
We're very busy at the moment creating a whole range of experiences for the future. Off the back of our investment, we are now looking into how we can create more of our own IP. So we're working through that process to determine what the market needs, what our customers want, and also what's fun and really cool to work with. We're looking at the new technologies, a lot of the eye tracking and the AI and the machine learning and everything else that is starting to now come to a level of maturity to really give much more depth to the immersive experiences that we create within those fields. So we're still doing the game stuff, we're still working on Pastimes for Pirates. We've still got other prototypes and other pitch decks that we're talking to people about that are not quite ready to reveal yet. The trend that experiences like the Void have commenced, and if you look at all the big VR parks in Dubai and China that are being made or are in operation already, what location-based VR means and what people want from that.
Where are you looking at, how are you determining what the users are ready for in virtual reality, and how do you prepare yourself, or how do you prepare a project that's ready for the market right now?
Because we're still looking at the scenario where 8 out of 10 people haven't tried VR before. So if you create something that's super complicated and super difficult and really, really in-depth without that onboarding process, then they quickly get overwhelmed and lost within the experience. Quite a lot of times we're having to not berate ourselves and not think that what we're creating is too simple or isn't keeping up with the Joneses of the other VR dev studios and what they're doing. So we have an element where it's all about keeping it super simple and really user-friendly, but then obviously on the more sort of gaming-y side, and it's looking at that replayability and competitiveness really that really brings that onus of the old school arcade back into sort of VR arcades where people want to beat their mates and best their scores. People want Skyrim, but at the same time they want Beat Saber.
Who do you cater to?
Yeah, who do you cater to? Where do you go? We always just want to work on something that we also find fun and engaging and that we want to work on, and we don't want to just be creating content for the sake of creating content. With our sort of innovation sides, we have a very carefully calculated matrix of determining whether an idea is beneficial to the company, whether it be...
How does that work? How do you put that together? Do you all sit in a room and say, I want to make this idea, or this is where the market is going? How do you determine what your next project is?
So a lot of it started off how we first started designing Loco Dojo and all the mini games. We had hundreds of ideas for the mini games, but we knew with the budget and the time that we wanted to finish it in, we could only probably do 16. So it all started off with very simple 5-6 word sentences of a core concept on a post-it note. Those then get voted on by everyone. They move to the next stage. We do a prototype. Is it fun? Is even the base mechanic fun and engaging? Is it something that you want to do in VR? Is it something that is worthwhile doing in VR? And then from that very early prototype, building it out, what is still successful, what is still a favourite amongst us, and then taking it to a stage where allowing people to come in and try it out and give their feedback as well. We need to get away from that mentality of game design where you're just in a black box or a walled development environment until the thing's finished and then release it. And then everyone who plays it feeds back going, oh, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?
Besides virtual reality, you mentioned eye tracking. Are there any partners that you could potentially talk about, that you're working together with to develop future experiences with?
So in terms of the eye tracking, at this stage it's still very early R&D. We've met with Tobii Eye, we've played around with the Fove, but we're talking with a lot of, this is more on the sort of learning and development side at the moment, but all the soft skills around interpersonal relationships and empathy and engaging with embodied avatars and human representations. So when we're talking about simulation for nuclear power stations for EDF, etc., that's fairly straightforward. But when you're talking about simulating potential vocal and human responses to face-to-face communication, there's no way that we could pragmatically, create every single potential pathway without just ending up in a huge mess of creating all those potential pathways and outcomes and the dialogue trees and everything else. So that's where the speech recognition and the AI comes in to sort of actually make it much more natural and random, but also to take a lot of the work off of us so that we don't have to do all of that legwork, and there is a level of intelligence there.
Are you finding that working both in education simulation and then gaming, that both of them are bouncing off of each other and both of them are enhancing each other in some shape, way, or form?
Very much so. I mean, a lot of what we learned creating Radial G and looking at all the early stage reduction of motion sickness and fast movement, the majority of VR technology that's available today doesn't really cause nausea anymore. It's more the bad design that causes the nausea. With Loco Dojo, that allowed us to explore and test and research a variety of different interactions and ways of using the touch, which feeds into how you're going to climb off a telegraph pole or how you're going to equip personal safety equipment out the back of a van, as opposed to just clicking and pointing and selecting something.
You mentioned the Microsoft HoloLens. Are you able to talk about any of those projects?
We've deployed 2 or 3 experiences now for one rapidly becoming sort of major partner of ours within the construction side of things. But moving forward, we'll be looking at creating a lot more AR content, headset AR content that will be revolutionising the training and learning and development within construction sort of sectors with them. We are in the process, hopefully fingers crossed, should have the green check to publish what we see as like the mid-tier VR experience for Vodafone for their working at height. And this will all be based around raising awareness of the dangers of what it takes to work at height as a mobile phone mast maintenance operator.
Where can we find this experience?
This experience is available on the Oculus Store for Gear VR and Go.
And it's a free experience as well?
It's a free experience, and it's designed to be available to anyone just to understand the processes involved in a high-risk, a dangerous job such as working at height. And even with 3DOF headsets, you still get a sense of the dangers of...
What I'm finding where you guys have the perfect balance is having these long-term partnerships with big corporates enables you to stay afloat, survive in it, and learn how to create sort of these different approaches to VR, AR, MR, and then use that for your own personal projects. Or
yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, this year is our 12th anniversary of existence of the company as a whole, and as an agency, you don't last 12 years unless you've made some mistakes and learnt from them, but at the same time are very sort of savvy and canny about your short-term, your mid-term and your long-term goals. And with the investment, we can focus less on the short-term and more on the mid and long-term. And it's a nice position to be in, to shore up and make everybody feel secure, but also at the same time to actually start giving more back to the community and working on VR for good and VR for impact, and allowing us to have that additional funds available to support charity projects and keep on pushing. We've done a lot of education around the benefits for corporates, but the benefits for humanity and people in general. Helping out the Grenfell project, working with the blind veterans, working with Stay Up Late, hosting gender diversity and equality coding workshops, working with children's groups to get them into coding and VR, and ensuring that our future generations are growing up with the right skill set to survive in sort of the post-digital Brexit, whatever that brings, world.
It's exciting times.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're heading in the right direction. What if a client is interested in working together with you? Where do they go?
First place is always a website. We've got a lot of showcases on there and product pages specifically about our previous deliveries. We're publicly visible and active on social media, whether it be through our Facebook page or Twitter accounts, my accounts, VR_Sam, and then we're more than happy to understand what their particular business objective or learning objective is. The only main advice is don't just come to us because you want something in VR or HoloLens because you've heard about it and you think it's cool. We don't ever lead with the tech, we just lead with the problem, and then we'll work to what level of technology will help you achieve that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Head over to vrfocus.com if you want to find out more about VR, and I will see you there.